Hello, everyone. Welcome to the TradeStation Masterclass. This is our platform series or platform essentials series, where we dive deeper into TradeStation's functionality and see if there are things on TradeStation that you didn't know existed and that you could probably use on a daily basis. One of those things is macros. A lot of people don't know that macros exist in TradeStation, and if you understand, the definition of a macro when it comes to software, you know that this is a sequence of actions that you take that are programmed together just to make the usability of those functions seamless and much faster. So that's exactly what the macro means in TradeStation. We're going to create these programmed series of tasks that you want to do in sequence without having to do each one of them individually. You run them as a group. And there's a couple of ways that you can run these macros. You can run them with the hotkey, or you can run them with a toolbar button. In fact, there's another way that you run macros by just typing up the name. But usually when you create a macro, it's because you want the flexibility of just running it very quickly, and you can do that, very easily with a hotkey or a toolbar button. Okay, I'm not sure if I said my name at the very beginning, but I am Jesus Nava. I'm the Director of Education for TradeStation Securities, and it's always great to be here. Let's go through some of the disclosures. Keep in mind that every symbol and idea that I talk about today is for educational purposes only. It is not a recommendation of TradeStation. I just got the alert. I'm not sure if Marcel is here, but in our prior class, we were working on this alert that was supposed to be triggered, based on the expiration. That's interesting. I'm not sure why it was so delayed. Maybe it did need an additional tick. That's interesting. So I'm glad that it worked. All right. So going back to our disclosure, keep in mind that online trading is not suitable for everyone, and that past historical performance, it's not suitable for everyone. For additional information on these disclosures, please go to www.tradestation.com/important-information. All right. I think I'm missing a piece on this disclosure. I have to go back into my records and see if it's there, but just realized that at this moment. So talking about macros, let's go back over here to the TradeStation platform. And let's talk about some of the macros that are built into the platform. So if you want to take a look, just go to the View menu, go to Shortcuts, and then open up the Macros menu. When you open up the Macros menu, you're going to see there's two main categories. There's a command line macro category, and there's an order entry macro. The command line macros are actions related to the TradeStation platform, but not necessarily trade or order related, although there are a few here that are command line macros that do manage orders and positions. We'll take a look at those. But the order entry macros are related strictly to placing trades into the market. We'll create one of both categories so that you understand what's the purpose and how to use them. But in the command line, as I said before, we do have a few command line macros that are order and position related. For example, the close all positions macro. You also have, see the order bar, increase or decrease quantity, price. You have, what else? Cancel. You can create a hotkey that cancels an order. So, sometimes you place an order and you want to cancel it very quickly, rather than having to go to the trade manager or going to the cancel button. Sometimes it's easy just to press a hotkey to get your, order canceled automatically. But let's take a look at one example. Cancel, if I click on cancel, the description here says cancel the last order. If I want to see if any hotkeys have been assigned to cancel, I just go to the hotkeys menu here on the right-hand side. And you can see that cancel has been programmed into the F4 key. So let's do that and see if we can, run that macro, which is built into the TradeStation platform. This is nothing custom. This is something that already exists on your TradeStation platform. So let's go here to the trade bar. And let me submit a trade here. This is a futures trade, ESU22. Okay, that's the quote right here, 3909. Let's say that I want to buy this at 3900. And I'm going to send the buy order. So the order is there. Now let me pull it up here on the chart, ESM22. And let me turn on account orders and positions. Let me remove that indicator, studies, edit studies, remove, and I'll remove the print log as well. Okay, so ESM, or I said ESU22, that's the one that I sent the order for. Okay, so everybody sees my order line right there, the blue line. We said that cancel is programmed into the F4 key. Now, cancel works on the most recent order that you placed. So in your mind, you have to keep track of the orders that you have placed. But if it's something you placed recently, it's very quickly to just press the F4 key and cancel that trade. I'm going to press F4. And we get a confirmation that says, would you like to run the cancel macro? If when I say yes, you can see that the order goes away. So that only applies to the most recent order you placed, not to every order that you place. So for example, let me put in several orders in here, 3900, 3875, and 3850. So I have 3 different orders here. If I press the F4 key, it's going to cancel the most recent that I placed, which is this one at 3850. F4, not F4, F4. Would you like to run the cancel macro? Yes. And it just cancels the most recent order. Now, if I do the other one, let me go here to view shortcuts, and macros. There's one that says cancel all. Let me go to hotkeys. This is not, or this is assigned to Shift F4. So if I go to close and the close, and in here, and I press or hold down the Shift key while I press the F4, it says, would you like to run the cancel all macro? I'm going to say yes, yes, and that cancels all my active orders, not only the ones on this symbol, but any other symbol across the board. So I may have a chart here and then have another chart. So this applies to every symbol you have. So just be mindful of that, because I don't want you guys to have any surprises. So if I have the ESU over here on the left, and I have the NQU22 here on the right, okay, let me place a trade here for ESU at 3900, buy, and then I do this one right here, NQU. I'm going to send that order at 11800. NQU. That's being received. It's just because it's not. It's 11800. NQU22. Okay, I need to turn on account orders and positions. That's why. Okay, so I have my 2 orders in there. So when you do Shift F4, would you like to run the cancel all macro? This cancels all active orders across all symbols. Just be mindful of that. But I think those are quick ways for you to manage your positions. And you can enter positions also using macros. But before we jump into order entry macros, let's go ahead and take a look at others that you may find useful. Macros, some of the ones that I've seen, many users apply on their TradeStation is apply, pre and post market and regular session. The pre and post market, there's no hotkey assigned to that. But if you see yourself switching from pre and post market to regular session, many times throughout the day, maybe it'd be wise to, assign a hotkey to these two so that you can switch back and forth without going through the menus. Okay, so let's go and close this. Here's cancel replace last with the market, cancel replace last minus one minimum move. So sometimes if you want just a slight adjustment to your order, you can do these macros that cancel and move your order up or down one tick. On the matrix, yeah, you can click and drag. It makes it very easy. On charting, sometimes it's challenging because of the scale. But if you want just a quick move up or move down, these are very handy. Let's use this one right here, minus a minimum move. The hotkey here is Shift F3. Everybody sees that? So let's suppose that I send an order for ES. Let me reset the scale here. I want everybody to see this. I'm going to buy this at 3,900. Okay, there it is. And if I press the Shift F3, would you like to run the replace? I'm going to say yes. Now take a look over here. I'm at 38.99.75. Of course, I feel like if you're running a macro, sometimes that confirmation window gets in the way, because what's the point of having something that generates a command very quickly if you still have to go in there and click on OK on a confirmation window? So what I do sometimes, if I want to disable that confirmation, I can go here to View, Shortcuts and Macros. We go back into the Macros menu, look for the one that we want to edit. In this case, I want to edit this one. And we click on Edit. And through the different windows of this wizard, you can see the insides of the macro. It gives you the command. I'm going to go to Next. That's the name of the macro. Next. And here's the checkbox for display confirmation. So I can uncheck it, and now it shouldn't give me a confirmation. I'm going to click on Finish and then Close. So guys, take a look at the price here of my order at 38.99.75. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and press the F3. Now I'm 38.99.50. Do it one more time, 39.99.25. So I can keep on doing that, and you can see how my order keeps on dropping one tick at a time. Now I do have that ding because I didn't disable it, but if that sound is annoying, just go to View, Shortcuts, Macros, select the one you want to edit, Next, and that's the beep right here, play the beep, and Finish. So now I can hold down the Shift and press F3, and I don't hear anything, but you can see the order dropping one tick at a time. Okay, so those are, maybe things that you didn't know existed on TradeStation by default, and you can use them on your trading if you'd like. Okay, so let's go here to View, Shortcuts, and Macros. We have the Close All Positions. This is one that I've used on my TradeStation to clear out my positions. And I use it, frequently because I'm on a trading simulator. So it just, it doesn't hurt to close all positions. But use it, very carefully, because if you're in a live account, close all positions will close everything on any brokerage account that you have connected to your TradeStation platform, whether these are long-term positions, short-term positions, short, long positions, futures, options, equities. It goes across the board and clears everything out. Easy because easy on the simulator because you're starting from scratch. But just, I don't think anybody here would want to use something like that on a real account, because you may want to keep some things in your account. But, if you're panicking and you want to be out completely of the market and you don't have, or you are completely aware of the positions you have open and you're okay closing them, then feel free to use that macro, which comes in very handy. If you guys want to see it, the hotkey that is assigned to that is Control F12. So I don't have any positions open. I have that position open, but let me open up a few more. I'm going to buy a futures at market. Order filled. I'm going to buy 100 shares of that at market.
Order filled.
I'm going to do AXP. I'm going to buy that market.
Order filled.
I'm going to do Home Depot, and I'm going to short Home Depot for, oh, what is this? You're long. I said sell short. Okay, sell short. Well, that's interesting. It was rejecting. It rejected it because it thought that I was selling, but I'm actually selling short. So that's really odd. So let me short something else. Let me go here to TWTR, and I'm going to short this. So you can see that I have an options position, I have some stock positions, and I have futures all mixed in my positions right here in the position graph bar. And if I press Control F12, that I keep my confirmations on because there's something drastic and I want to make sure that I'm, confirming that that's exactly what I want to do. But Control F12 triggers the macro to close all positions. I'm going to say yes. And you can see that it clears out my positions regardless of what you had open. If it was long, short, with the small size, big size, futures, options, everything is killed, okay? It doesn't cancel orders. As you can see, I still have some open orders for the S&P. So if I want to cancel all of those, it's Shift F4, right? This is cancel all macro. That cancels all. I believe there is a macro. Let's see, shortcuts and macros. Because we can create a macro that closes all positions and cancels all orders. That's something that we can create, and that pretty much closes every position and also cancels any active order. But for now, we have separate macros for you. What else? Well, okay, so what I want to do, or what I want to just suggest, is that you go through the list of different macros that are here and see if you would want to use any of the ones that are built into the platform. You can create we can create our own as well. So that's something that I like doing. For example, you may have see if we can do a practical example. Can you guys think of something that you would want to create into a macro? We can, a lot of times I have my trade station open up empty, no workspaces open. So let me do that right now. Let me close these workspaces and don't save the changes. So I know that it's been kind of painful to go through this feature of TradeStation not remembering what was opened. So a lot of times what you can do is that you can assign a set of workspaces to be opened from a hotkey. So rather than expecting TradeStation to open up a desktop that has your workspaces, why not just have hotkeys that open up a select group of workspaces depending on the hotkey that you press? Now, that would be an idea for somebody that's struggling with the way that TradeStation manages desktops and workspaces and what is open from last session and what should be open next time. So if you set your TradeStation to not open anything and then remember what hotkey launches which set of workspaces, I think that is useful. So let me show you what I can do. Let's go here to View, Shortcuts, go to Macros, and let's create a macro. I'm going to click on Create here on the right-hand side. This is going to be a command line macro, and I'm going to go to Next. The first thing that it's going to ask you is for you to list the commands. I want everybody to pay attention to what it says here in these two lines. It says commands must be preceded with a period. So commands are preceded with a period, and it has the period in parentheses, and use a double semicolon to separate multiple commands. Yeah, the whole idea is for us to combine different commands, and we need to remember that to create separation, we need a double semicolon. So what is the command to open a workspace? I believe it is just the word open workspace, but how do we know? Let's go to help from here, from this dialog, and it should open. Yeah, it should open on the page that says create command line wizard. There's two links on this document that says command line reference all commands or command line reference sorted by application. It depends on what type of commands I'm looking for. I may go to the list that is organized by application or the one that has all the commands all together. Let me go to all commands and scroll down to the O, because the command that I want is open workspace. So over here, you can see that I have open desktop. Open is the word open. You see that it says dot open. That's the long version, and you have dot O. So it's not OW. I thought it was going to be dot OW, but it's just dot O. And then you have to supply a workspace name. So I need to remember what the name of the workspace is that I want to open. Let's go ahead and take a look what workspace I have there before I create the commands. Let me close out of this. Let me go to File, Workspaces, File, Workspaces, Open Workspace. Everybody sees the series of numbered workspaces here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to create a macro that opens 1, 2, 3, and then another macro that creates or that opens 4, 5, 6, because maybe on one day, I want to open up a set of workspaces, but then on another day, I want to open up another set. So I have these macros that allow me to launch these workspaces on command. Let's try to do 1, 2, 3 first. So I'm going to go back to View, Shortcuts, Macros, Create, clicking on command line, and Next. So we said that the command is .o. And then I'm sorry about the size of the text here. So when I finish, the list of commands, I'll just copy and paste it into the chat so it's more visible. But I know the name of the workspace is just the number 1. That's how I named the workspace. And if I want to separate commands, because that's my first command, open workspace 1, I have to type in a double semicolon, and I can continue on the same line or separate the lines. This is very similar to what you do in easy language. The spaces are not really that necessary. So I can do .o space 2, and then semicolon, semicolon, 2 semicolons, then .o space 3. So this is what I'm writing. Let me go copy that. And let me put it here in the chat. So this is what the string of commands look. .o space 1, semicolon, semicolon, .o space 2, semicolon, semicolon, and .o space 3. The space between the O and the name of the workspace is important, because then it will just think that it's just one command. But the spaces around the semicolons are not needed. You can put them there if you want for readability purposes, but they're not needed. So I'm going to just leave this the way it is. I'm going to go to Next, and then I'm going to type a name for this macro. And the name is going to be open 1, 2, 3. Those are the name of my workspaces. I'm just calling the macro open 1, 2, 3. I'm going to click Next. I don't want a confirmation, and I don't want a beep. And I finished. So I just created a new macro that has those 3 commands, and it should open my workspaces. Now you have a few options here. Open 1, 2, 3, the name of the macro is a command in itself. So if I wanted to type in .open 1, 2, 3, I could. In fact, I'm going to do that right now so you can see that you don't necessarily need a hotkey or a toolbar button. You can just do it by running the macro name. So from here, from the command line, I'm going to do .open 1, 2, 3. That's my, see, it shows up in the list of suggested things that you can put in there, and it recognizes that a macro exists. When I hit enter here, it's going to open those 3 workspaces, and you see that it opens them in the order that I have them in my macro. I have 1, 2, and I have 3. Isn't that cool? That you can create that macro. So feel free to do that on your trade station just to get some more control over what opens and what doesn't. Now, is there a macro to close? Not sure, but we'll find out. So close all, close desktop, close the active workspace. So .c is the command to close the workspace. So if we didn't make any changes to this, if I type in .c and I hit enter, that closes the workspace. Notice that I'm just typing .c, and since I hadn't made any changes, it's not prompting me to save them. Very quick way to also close a workspace and not have to right click on it or something, right? Is there a hotkey to optimize a strategy? Matthew asks. No, there isn't. And the reason why there's no hotkey to optimize is because you do have to specify the range of parameters that you want to test. Now, that is something that is user assigned or user provided. And if you're not providing those, the optimization process is not going to automatically select them. So that's the reason why you don't have a command to optimize a strategy. But the same, I can take that same command, shortcuts, and I can go to the hotkeys, look for my command line macro. We called it open 1, 2, 3. Here it is. I click it and I can assign a hotkey. And the way that I assign a hotkey to that is by clicking inside this box that says press new hotkey and then pressing the hotkey that I want to assign to it. So if I want to do Control Shift 1 and I want to assign that, you can see the command right here, Control Shift 1. You just have to click inside this box and press the actual hotkey. And then I click on close. So now if I do Control Shift 1, it does exactly what the macro is programmed to do, which is open workspace 1, 2, and 3. All right. I also find it useful to have hotkeys that apply certain studies, certain analysis techniques. For example, if you have Bollinger Bands and moving average or RSI and MACD, and you want to apply those analysis techniques on command without having to go to the list of studies, you can create hotkeys for that. So that's pretty cool. Let's go here to View, Shortcuts, Macros. I'm going to click on Create, and I'm going to go to Command Line Macro. Next. So the command to add a study, let's see if we have a command for adding. The list of commands here was not updated with the new menu structure of TradeStation 10. TradeStation 10 has been around maybe for 5 or 6 years. I'm not sure how long, but the platform uses the menu add study. You can see if you go to studies, you find the word add, but the command is not like that. The commands are still using the same menu nomenclature that was used on 9.5, which is insert study. So I have to go down here and it says not even insert study, it says insert analysis technique. That you see it right there. The short command is .iat, IAT for insert analysis technique, and then you have to supply a study name. You don't have to, this is optional, but if you use a command .iat, it'll just bring you to the studies page. So let me do that. Let me cancel out of this and close. If I do .iat and I hit enter, the add studies dialog comes up. So if you don't want to go to the studies menu up here and then click on add studies, you can just type in .iat and it brings this up. But that's not what I want. I want to add specific studies to my chart. So I'm going to come over here to say View, Shortcuts, Macros, Command Line Macros, Create, Command Line Macro, Next. And my command is going to be .iat. I have to supply the name of the indicator that I want to add. I'm going to do Bollinger Bands, semicolon, semicolon. One thing to keep in mind is that if you're doing studies or strategies that you have inside of your trade station, you must type the name exactly as it appears on the list. If you don't type the name exactly the same, this command will not recognize the study. So always be, aware of what is the exact name of my study. I'm going to hit enter, .iat, and I'm going to type in RSI. And I can do another one here, maybe semicolon, .iat, and I'm going to do MACD. So these are the three commands that I'm using. Let me put that here in the chat so you see it, .iat. You can see how the commands, this time I opted to hit enter. As soon as I typed in the semicolons, this is optional too. It just gives me a list of commands if that's what I want to do. All right, so the name of that macro is going to be Bollinger Band, RSI, MACD. That's what I have in here. And you can separate those with a underscore too if you want, if it's a little bit more legible. No spaces in the macro names, that's not allowed. It'll give you an error if you try to do it. So since the name is a little bit more difficult to remember or type up, I am going to use the hotkey for that. So that's going to be a hotkey. It's going to be Control Shift, Control B. I wanted to just Control B, something that is simple. Some of the hotkeys that you're going to be assigning are probably going to be already in use. At that point, you have an option to whether to either take over that hotkey and assign it to the macro, your macro, or choose something different so that you don't override something that's already pre-programmed. Most of the time, I just take over that combination, because if it's already assigned to something that I'm not using, what's the point of keeping it there? I want to use it for this purpose, which is adding studies. I'm going to click on close and close. Well, actually, before I click close, let me create another one of those. I'm going to do .iat, and this time I'm going to do price channel .iat. I'm going to do stochastic slow and .iat MOV AVG 2 lines. I think that's the name. Let me copy these commands. I put them right here in the chat so you know exactly how I type them up. And this will be price channel, stock for stochastic, and then moving average 2 lines. Okay, so let's go ahead and no confirmation, no sound. And I'm gonna assign this to Control S. See, this is one of those that's already assigned to save workspace. I'm not going to replace that because Control S is usually a command that is commonly used for saving something. So I'm going to say, do you want to reassign? No. Let me do something like Control Shift S. Assign? No. Did I use Control B for the other one? I'm going to do Control P. This is for print. Whatever it is, I'm just going to do yes. So Control P for my price channel. And then I have this other one. Where's the other one that I created? I think it was Bollinger. I have Control B. Control B and Control P are both of my hotkeys. So now if I have an open chart and I press Control B, oh, it didn't add Bollinger Bands. What happened here? Study not verified. I think I was making some changes to the Bollinger Bands and I may have, broken it. So let's go here to open the Bollinger Band code. So let's do something here. Let's go to the B's. Bollinger Band's right here. Open. So as you can see, it's not verified. Let's verify this. Okay, and let's try that again. I'm going to go to the chart. If I do Control B again, it duplicates everything. Not what I was looking for, because I wanted this to, oh, I know what happens, because I'm individually adding the studies. If I had created the macro using study groups instead, I would have seen very nicely replace the studies for me. But since I'm doing this individually, let me do Control B again. So I have Bollinger Bands, RSI, and MACD all added automatically. But if I do Control P, I'm sorry, it wasn't, yeah, Control P, it just adds on top of it. It doesn't replace the studies. If you want the functionality to replace the study, then they need to be created as study groups. And the macros needs to add study group. So when you go here to the commands, instead of insert analysis technique, it's actually insert analysis group. So, but I find that very, very helpful because sometimes you want to use the same chart, but you want to swap the studies that are in there. So if you're looking at the Bollinger Band and now you want to take a look at the price channel, just insert a group and it works. Studies, add study group. See, for example, I show you here Bollinger Bands and MACD goes on the chart. But if you go to studies and you go to add study group and you select a different one, like if I select kernel channel and momentum, it replaces the ones that were there and shows me the indicators that are part of that group. Okay. I should have thought of that before creating the macros, but yeah, you can create macros to insert specific analysis techniques. So if you find yourself going into the studies and add studies many times, just to add the same studies over and over again, sometimes having this hotkey, it's going to make your life so much easier. Okay, so give that a try. We're almost running out of time. I want to show you just one more, like an order entry macro, because you can assign hotkeys to, placing trades, even from a window that is not a chart. I know that there's a keyboard trading functionality that is built into chart trading, and that's another session. We have another video, another class where we talk about keyboard trading. But over here, if I had a radar screen window, let me go here. Radar screen, there we go. Okay, I'm going to resize this. I'm going to put in my studies and let's go to data, add the Dow Jones. Okay, so I have, and I'm going to put my position graph bar up. Okay, I'm going to create a macro. I think there's one already created here, but let's go here to shortcuts, macros, order entry macros. Okay, I'm going to create one. And if it's there, then we'll have to create another one. The order entry macro. Next, it cycles you through a different wizard. What do you want to do with this macro? I want to send the order. Customize at the TradeStation trade bar gives you one extra step. It'll populate the trade bar for you to make any changes if you want to before submitting the trade. This is going to be a macro for equities, since I'm looking at the Dow here. It's going to be the active symbol, and it's going to trade 100 shares. That's my specific quantity here. Whatever the trade bar in the account is at the time. And here's the specifications of what you want to do. I want to buy, let's suppose that I want to do a market order every single time I submit that macro. So the name of the macro is going to be buy 100, and I can say 100 shares. I don't want a confirmation and I don't want a beep, and then I finish. So now I have a macro that's called buy 100 shares that I'm going to assign to a hotkey. By the way, the same functionality that you assign on hotkeys can also be assigned to a toolbar button. Toolbars are kind of grayed out from this menu, but if you go to view, shortcuts, and go to toolbars directly, I'm sorry, no, toolbars are accessed through the toolbar here. So remember that you go to the very end of the toolbar and you customize the toolbar. You can add buttons to your toolbar that runs these macros as well. But I'm going to do a hotkey here. My buy 100 shares, the hotkey is going to be Control-Shift-1, and I'm going to assign it. I had used that for the the macro that says open 1, 2, 3, but I'm going to take it over. Control Shift 1, because maybe then I want to do another macro that buys 200, and I can, have a hotkey that's Control Shift 2, and then another one that buys 300, and then assign it to Control Shift 3. So you can create a series of commands that matches your trading style, and instead of using an order entry tool, you can run these macros very quickly. So that's Control Shift 1. So let me show you what this would do. I don't have any open positions right here at the top, but any symbols that I click on, if I click on Apple and I do Control Shift 1, I have 100 shares of Apple. If I click on Amgen and I do Control Shift 1, now I have 100 shares of Amgen. Now, any symbol that I click on, when I press that hotkey, it's just going to buy 100 shares of those. That's pretty cool, Of course, I mean, it'd be pretty cool if you could do that with unlimited capital, like I have here. I have, $5.6 million in my simulator. But if your intention is to put in a trade quickly, and you don't want to go to a matrix or a trade bar, you just want to be looking at your watch list, and you say, this is time to buy Home Depot. I'm just going to click on it, press my hotkey, and it buys 100 shares of Home Depot immediately. Those are the type of things you can accomplish with order entry macros. Do we have any questions? Talk about timing. All my positions, well, they were turning green, now they're turning red. So pretty cool. So yeah, that's to recap, we have these two types of macros that you can create on TradeStation. Before creating them though, look at the ones that are built into the platform and see if there's something there that you would want to use. But if you're doing series of actions or series of tasks within the platform that you want to program together into a macro, that's something you can do using the command line. So make sure that you experiment with that feature. I don't see any more questions, so I'm going to call it a class. Thank you guys for joining me today on this session, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful afternoon and a wonderful weekend. Today is Friday, so we don't have a session until Monday. So I hope that everyone can relax, enjoy your weekends, and I'll see everyone on Monday. Great having you. Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye-bye.